I'm Jon Altschuler.
I'm Scott Bennett. We've known each other for almost 50 years.
We grew up together on the playground.
And now we're in the foreground and still growing up.
From the playground to the foreground.
Join the conversation. I'm Scott Bennett, and he's Jon Altschuler, and we're back on the playground. Jon, how you doing?
Doing great.
Well, we've gotten into this game of show and tell. So I thought from our last episode, your question to me was whether or not I would be capable or functional in the need to make a fire. Could I make fire? And then I explained to you that I carry a Swiss Army knife in my car. So I brought it in to show you that while you might not be sure whether or not I can make a fire, I always have my Swiss Army knife, and I think I'd be okay. So I wanted you to see it, let you.
So this helps you make a fire.
Well, I'm sure there's things in there that could help me do that. No, you don't think so? Okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to bring it to you to prove that maybe your doubt, that there's things about me you didn't know. And this is with me all the time.
I was definitely surprised that you carry a Swiss Army knife.
Good. I
can't think of any of my friends. Well, I have one best friend who would carry a Swiss Army knife. Only one.
Do you have one?
No.
So the story behind it, I actually had a few. They were really good bar mitzvah gifts in the day. I got about 5 or 6 Swiss Army knives, but this is the one that's remaining. The others, I don't know where they've been given away. Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
The brand, I think that Swiss brand still exists, but that Swiss Army knife I've had for that long for sure. I wouldn't use the toothpick if I was you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I was thinking,
Can I show my prop?
I didn't know you brought one.
I brought a prop.
Oh, I'm excited about this. Oh.
It's a letter I got from Scott that I thought was excellent execution.
All right, good.
And it commemorated our time together at the UNT Dallas Law School Gala, where we were told to wear tuxes and nobody else wore tuxes. But I like the feel of it. It takes extra time. You're compensating for what you think's poor handwriting, I guess.
That's right.
But I thought it was all very well done. And I wanted to say thank you for the note. I kept it, and it's very classy.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm glad you shared it with me. I'm glad you got it. First of all, the technology works.
They do it all.
They do it all.
Okay.
And, for our viewers and listeners, Jon is renowned in his communication, how he follows up his passion for the written word, I think actually you've written 2 notes or 3 since that to me about different things, but they're all handwritten, and it's something that I've aspired for and worked on. And I told you that my deficiency was my handwriting. I should have been a doctor. So I found an alternative, and that I wanted you to see. And I think as a result of talking with you and Lori.
Yeah.
So do you think that's?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
It works.
I can keep doing that.
Absolutely. Because the photo is what really gives it that special meaning to me.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I liked about the service. It's not inexpensive, but I'm not going to send them to everybody. But I like it. It's a pretty interesting use of technology, and it covers my deficiencies.
What does piece in the pieces mean?
So
it's your sign off on emails and here in this letter.
Written communication and on a lot of emails. It's from the guardian of my heart donor. His name is Matt Nalker. So Matt, if you're watching, thank you for sharing that with me. He sent me some scripture. And at the bottom, after we'd gotten to know each other, first written communication, and I asked him, loved it. And piece in the pieces can mean a lot of things. I mean, what does it mean to you? But to me, it means piece in the pieces of your life, your family, your job,
right?
Whatever you're doing, piece in the pieces of those things.
Cool.
So I don't know. I liked it. I've continued to use it. I told him he told me he can't take credit for it. He gave it to some man that he had met many years before. So
right.
Others are starting to use it too, which I like. So maybe I've started a movement. Really quickly, I did want to bring up, and I mentioned, we've had a couple of major hurricane events, terrible sort of perils of the world. And last night I was totally blown away by the fact that I was cut on the TV, wasn't watching any of the shows or things that I might have normally been doing. I wasn't feeling well, but was laying in bed and watching the coverage of the current hurricane. And what struck me is that they're telling everybody to leave. And this is like the second or third time this has dawned on me, but last night more. It's so dangerous to be there. But all the news affiliates, and I don't watch I told you I'm not watching that much local news, but they're sending these people into harm's way, and they've been doing it in wars and want your thoughts on that. Like, it's crazy to me that they're telling everybody to leave and then they're sending trucks of people in there to cover this. Is that?
I've watched no weather programming. Just my wife's redoing the house. The TVs are down. So like, I'm not watching it, but my sense is live programming is the most valuable programming. You think about sports.
Yeah.
That's the most valuable. And I imagine weather might be right behind it in terms of driving audience viewership that's sticky and stays on and watches.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I'm not a media guy, but that's my sense.
And it makes sense, right? I mean, for sure. It's like the final frontier for them to get people to tune in. But at the same time, like, what happened to human safety? Like, they're telling people to flee. Like, it is so dangerous there. And then they're sending people in there. It's like dangerous for everybody else, but not them.
Right.
And I just think, like, where are we? But I understand it's news. And if it's news, we're going to get it. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I'm really excited about today. Sitting in different places, by the way.
So we are sitting in different places. I like the feel of the room a little better.
You do?
Yeah, this is clearly the A seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the B seat.
I agree.
You had me in the B seat for 7 episodes and I said no more.
I know. So I'm glad I'm still on the bus.
You're still on the bus.
Barely.
We're going to have a review at the end of the 8th episode. We're going to go through the tapes and we're going to make adjustments.
Okay. Right. And they're not in game. They're post game. I listened because I suspected this was going to be the case. I listened to a whole different song. I didn't drink coffee. It's going to be a totally different experience today, but we'll see how it goes.
Good.
You can find us on social media at Playground Foreground.
Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. Our guest is Chad Pinson. He's a great friend of mine of 10 years, a dear family friend of 7 years. And Scott, he's never watched a podcast, never listened to a podcast, and certainly never been on a podcast. So hold on to your butts. Chad, welcome to the Playground.
Thanks, John. And yeah, when John asked me to do this, I thought, I've obviously probably seen snippets, but I'm fairly certain when I say I don't think I've ever seen a podcast start to finish, including, sorry guys, but so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This will be a lot of fun.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
So why don't you give the audience 60 to 90 seconds of who is Chad Pinson?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, hello, everybody. So I'd say the core things I want people to know about me is I've been married to the same woman for almost 30 years, Crystal, my wife. I've got 3 kids. One is 20, one is a senior in high school, and then one is 16 and just got his driver's license yesterday. So we're hitting major milestones. So girl, boy. I've lived in Dallas since 98. I'm originally from East Texas, out by the Longview, Tyler, Marshall area. And right now I'm running an accounting firm. So that's what I'm doing professionally.
Like 35 seconds. That's good. That's efficient.
I don't really want to talk about myself.
I understand.
Yeah.
So typically we have a big run of show, a script of show, and we're changing it up a little bit this time. I have 4 topics that I've selected, and we're going to treat Chad like it's law school and he's in the corner and we're cold calling him.
Okay. I don't know what to expect here. This is exciting. Wow. And the topic is Bitcoin.
I want like 90 to 120 seconds on this, but what fascinates me about Bitcoin is you were the first sharp friend I had that was talking about Bitcoin. And I went to look, and Bitcoin is up 15,000% since you first mentioned it to me. And you were talking about mining and electricity capacity. And
yeah,
so
this is a sore subject for me in some ways because I was definitely an early adopter. At the time I was running a cybersecurity firm, heavily involved in deep technology, working with some really sharp people around that. And we all just became believers in the concept of cryptocurrency, blockchain, and Bitcoin was the king of that, right? And so we went out and we built miners. I mean, we were mining Bitcoin, and this is a tragedy story. When we were mining it, Bitcoin was $80 a coin. Today it's 60,000. So I've owned and sold over 200 Bitcoins in my life, but none of them at that price we didn't hold. And so I am still going to work every day. But I was definitely an early adopter. I've, built 3 different sets of miners and mined them and been really interested in it. I'll tell you where it eventually devolved is, I did cybersecurity. And so we did what's known as incident response. Someone gets breached. A lot of times it's ransomware and they say, we won't give you your files back with the decryption code unless you pay us in Bitcoin. I would say the number one thing that I saw for years and years was the use of cryptocurrency paying ransoms in Bitcoin. So that's one of the big places that I saw it play out. But yeah, I'm still interested in it. Still dabble, but definitely, had I played some cards differently, we would be having a different conversation about the trajectory of my life for sure.
Wow.
So yeah, funny.
So strikes me. I wasn't expecting to pull that out.
Yeah, that surprised me. I don't know these topics either, by the way. So total
fun. This is fun.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I have been paying attention very loosely to it. I'm kind of an early adopter. Like I like innovation technology. I can see, especially right now, why it makes so much sense to have a ledger, personal ledger, Bitcoin leading that. But I think it's intimidating. And I saw something recently about people buying gold bars. That's become real popular again. Not just gold. Precious metals, other precious metals. I think I saw titanium,
palladium,
something again. So like you keep thinking, oh, it's going to be over. This is just a fad. Is this just a fad?
Look, I don't know if it's a fad or not. I'm not trying to read the future. And John's heard this before, but Scott, where I became I was just like, this makes sense. I've spent a lot of time in Africa. And I guess, look, hi to my friends in Congo and South Sudan. That's fun to get to say. Maybe they'll watch this. Maybe this will expand your audience. There, people don't trust the banks in the same way. They can't, they maybe even can't trust the governments in the same way. And so they need a way to store wealth. They need a way to do transactions that is safe in a different way. And that really resonated with me. And that's where I thought that cryptocurrency could really take off. There are really intricate technical payment systems in Africa. M-Pesa is one of the big ones that are just different. And so I don't think it's a fad because I think there's a need for it in that part of the world. And I think we'll still see that play out. So no, I'd say it's not a fad. That's why I originally sort of was a buy-in.
I could imagine Bennett in 2015 leaving a job, having $9,000 in a 401k, cashing it out, paying the penalty. He nets $6,000, puts it into Bitcoin, leaves it there, and now he can't remember the password. What would happen then is you couldn't access your $68 million.
Right. That's I appreciate that confidence in me. It's funny. I was with a couple parents weekend because we have a child in Austin, and we were riding home from an outing, and they're from South Africa, and talking all about this.
There you go.
Exactly what you just said. So now it's like two signs. So if I meet one more person that talks about Bitcoin in the next, things come in three, I'm going to be calling you and be like, what should I do? How do I get in? But it's interesting. And
Charlie Munger called it rat poison cubed. Like bad.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear. This is a hobby.
Like the ransom deal.
This is not professional, right? For me, this is a hobby.
Who does somebody call? Like, what do I do? Like, if I'm starting from the beginning, who do I call? Like, I'm going to call you, but
Coinbase.
Yeah.
I just go to Coinbase, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be a good starting point for someone in your shoes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why don't you let our guest pick?
No.
Okay. Oh. Heart transplant.
We just discovered this common theme before.
I was hoping y'all wouldn't.
Yeah. That was a shock. Yeah. Heart transplant. So, I mean, I guess to catch everybody else up on this, my youngest son has had a heart transplant. We're kind of rolling up on 3 years now. We just had his 3-year successful check-in. And I learned that Scott also, within roughly that time frame, has had it too. So we have that in common. I even said, we need to talk about that more later, but I didn't know that was going to be in the hat.
Well, we'll broach that, and then I hope we'll talk more about it later. I look forward to meeting your son too, obviously. It's hard for me to think like I was actually today, I was with another a liver transplant recipient this morning who's become a friend. And we were talking about this morning, gratitude. I don't know, we were talking about a lot of other things, but we kept coming back to this idea about gratitude. And I suppose there are a lot of ways I could take this, but just curious, like being a caregiver for someone who's gone through that, like, and having so much more time with this child, like, how has it affected your life? How has gratitude changed for you?
Wow. There's a lot here. First of all, I'll just say that what my son went through I mean, no one's supposed to have to go through that, but we live in a fallen, broken world, right? But him going through that is a longer part of a story that just I would say it made my life make sense in some ways. I actually don't think Scotty's adopted, or if I told you that was in like the last seconds before we walked in. And, you never expect to adopt a child from the Congo who comes here and seems perfectly healthy. In fact, seems like one of the most healthy kids in America. He's a state champion wrestler. And then, a week after playing both ways in a football game, nearly every play ends up at Children's. And then a month after that, you realize he needs a heart transplant. But what a miracle that he was able to be here, and how that didn't make sense that I would ever go to the Congo, much less adopt someone from there, much less go through this. That starts just making some things make sense, and just really see God's plan in people's lives. But the other thing that I would say, I'm just going to use this as a chance. I think you said that you know who your donor is. We don't. And the way it works for people who don't know is you basically, it's double blind. And after a year, you can say, hey, we'd like to meet the donor. And then the donor's family can say, hey, we would like the people that we made the donation to. A lot of people don't know that. Well, we obviously have put our name in the hat and said we would love to meet the family of this person who gave us literally the greatest wish we could give. And we haven't heard that. I don't know if we ever will, and that's okay. But there's the chance that whoever that is, or someone in those shoes is watching. That's a chance for me to say thank you in a different way. That's a very meaningful version of a gift, and just the gratitude from it. It makes you more grateful for the notion of time and time with people and the preciousness of relationships. Yeah. And I would hope that I had those as priorities before, but it changes you.
Totally.
Right. It changes you.
I don't think we'd be, quite frankly, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. I asked Jon for many years before it took a heart transplant for him to say yes.
And I told Chad when we were sitting in the chair outside that there was a reason I decided to do this. And that was the reason.
Oh, okay. You didn't tell me what the reason was. You said, yeah. There's a Bible verse that just talks about God taking our old hard heart and giving us a new heart. And I think that what you went through and what my son went through is like a physical representation of that. And it should change how we think about life. Right?
Well, if I'm going to tie heart transplant with Bitcoin, he didn't know we were going to do this part of the game. Heart transplant and Bitcoin. You might think if you had a lot of that Bitcoin, you'd be wealthy. I would argue this makes me wealthier.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is how I feel every day. I feel like in a very different way. I was hoping for, I knew I had a diagnosis. My father had a transplant before me. So my family, we had gone through that as children of a recipient, never expecting it to be mine, but it changes everything for me in terms of the importance of the relationships in my life, how I value and what I believe true wealth is. And I struggled with that most of my life up until now. So I did not know that, but as is the case, whenever we've had a guest here, you learn some really fascinating things, and I'm looking forward to knowing more about this and meeting your son and building a friendship around this. Obviously, we'll have a lot to share.
People don't know that we don't know each other, right?
No.
We literally became friends today. But Scott, I would say one thing we should say, because people are going to listen to this. If you have not raised your hand and said, hey, I'm willing to be an organ donor, please do it. It changes lives. There's a 16-year-old boy right now who is alive and thriving because someone did that. And it just, it's something that I'm passionate about. And I just remind people of it. It costs you nothing.
It's easy to do it too.
Costs you nothing. It's very easy to do.
Yeah. And I got to say, Jon, I know what he told me about the time when he found out, and actually somebody told me this week that how he was handling it behind the scenes and a support system. I'm sure you had a great support system. Jon was really great in my recovery too.
I was just screaming at people to calm down.
Yeah,
of course he's sedated. He's waiting on a heart.
But as is the case, I'm glad you said that. I should have been the one to say that. I part of my life is speaking, and I try to shine a light on that because it's really important. It's a real easy thing to do, but lives are saved. My donor, because you said you didn't know yours, donated 8 organs and tissue. There are people walking around, and I should say his name because he's not just a donor. His name is Cody Richardson, and I try every time I mention the name of my donor to say his name. But thank you, Cody. because now I have Chad as my friend and Jon still pretends to be my friend. So I'm doing pretty good, I think.
To connect with today's guest, Chad Pinson, you can find him on Instagram. He's a certified public accountant who serves his clients through the firm of Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. You can check out their website, criadv.com.
To learn more about organ donation in Texas, you can check out donatelifetexas.org. Back to the hat.
This is fun.
It's meant to be this difficult to unload.
Okay.
I can see what it is, but I want to make sure I'm going to make sure there's nothing else.
What is this? Because I can see your face.
This is very exciting.
You know what it is.
I don't.
You have to know.
Daylight saving time.
Okay, daylight savings time. I know why, Jon. So I don't know how long this tradition has gone, but I have a tradition where every year I'm not just the change to, but from daylight savings time, I make a Facebook post. Some years it's my only Facebook post.
Right.
And I think the whole thing is, I want everybody to hear this. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. We should not be changing times willy-nilly to and fro. It does nothing. I happen to be pro the daylight savings time standard for time. I call that the good time and the other one bad time, but I'd be okay with either one. And I just want people to come to their senses. This seems like something that government could do for us. A lot of the world lives without this, and we live with it, and it is nonsense. So I don't know what more you want me to say.
Why do you not like getting the extra hour in the spring?
There's no extra hour.
It's the same number of hours.
That sun just revolved around the earth in the exact same amount of time. You just basically pulled the sheet up from your feet over your chin and said, I got more blanket. Your feet are cold.
It's lighter later.
It's in some parts of the year, but if we did nothing, it would still get lighter later, Jon.
I have a totally different question about it. I opened it and you said it. This said what? Just so I'm clear, what does that say?
Daylight saving time.
And what did you call it?
Savings time.
Yes. So I'd like to start there. Yeah. I always called it savings time. I'm pretty sure you did your research and it's saving time. Are we sure that's right?
I might blame that on the producer.
Oh,
it's singular. It's singular.
You don't even know the name.
I don't even care because it's nonsense.
Right.
But this is my plug. I do have a humorous Facebook group that people can join.
It's so great.
And be a part of it. But I have no patience for it. You knew this would make me angry. It did. So we need to do away with it.
Why do you think we're doing it? Like what's the reason for doing it?
Well, I mean, there are two historical stated reasons. One was to help farmers, but I think farmers know when to get up and go to bed, regardless of what the clock says. They're pretty self-sufficient. But really, one of the things it did is they thought it boosted the economy and had some energy savings at a time where we needed to do that. But things worked differently then than they do now. I don't think there's a reasonable way to justify changing clocks back and forth, but there's a ton of information that says it makes people sick. I mean, heart attacks skyrocket because people get off and people shouldn't get off of their rhythms.
Cadence, right?
And look, there are things that I am passionate about and care about deeply. This is not that. This is funny to Jon and I. I don't want to be baited into this seeming like it's otherwise, but you put it on the list. It's my chance to say it. We need to get rid of it. And I think that our politicians are just cowards for not tackling it.
Doesn't Arizona not do it?
Yes. So Arizona doesn't do it. And then part of Indiana, I think, does and doesn't. And then, you've got a country like China that just says, we're going to have one time zone for the whole thing and never switch back and forth. So amazingly, they function that way. I've had to explain this to my friends in Africa. And they're like, you change the clocks? I said, yes, we changed the clocks. And they've got good sense and we don't. They can't get their head around it.
It's actually a setting like in your vehicle now.
Yeah.
You can set it. So like, it's not just
that sometimes works.
I love my parents still call and remind Chris and me it's daylight savings time. I'm like, Dad, my phone just changed automatically.
How many people are in your Facebook group?
I don't know how many are in the group. I did the group as a funny joke.
No, but I mean, like,
I do all my posts off of my main Facebook profile.
Do you think? I was just thinking, it sounds like a fun hobby. Do you think like we could start sort of a movement and get people to like
He's been trying hard.
There's a movement. There's a movement. I can't believe this is a topic. This is a great show.
I mean, I might be. I'm just saying. I have a loud voice. I could get behind this. I could get behind this. I mean, I'll be honest. I was thinking about it. It's funny. I didn't know it was going to be a topic, but I was walking. We always talk about walking on the trail because I've moved down to the Katy Trail, and I'm like, is it going to change? Like, this will be my first daylight saving or savings time saving according to what we would have, and like. I think I'm going to get thrown off. Like I got to get out there earlier because it's going to get darker earlier. Like right now I'm sort of seeing that already happen naturally. So this is going to change everything for me. I've been thinking about it. I'm not going to pretend I haven't. Like, am I going to have to, because now it's going to be darker. I know there are lights on the trail, but it's all stressful. So I didn't know this was coming, but.
I'm supposed to like run a large business and we're talking about daylight savings time. I love it. Thanks, John. Thanks for that.
Pickleball.
We were sitting out in the chair beforehand. He gets up, he's sore. He said, I played pickleball for 3 hours today.
Yeah. I do like pickleball. I think pickleball's great. It's fun. I've played a lot of racket sports. As you get old, some of them are more difficult to play than others. It's hard for me to find ping pong competitors. Right. So pickleball is a nice thing. It's been great. It's very social. It gets you exercise. It's fun. That is not what I thought the topic would be, but I really do like pickleball. I think the name is ridiculous. I wish it had a nice name to it, but it's pickleball. So,
do you watch pickleball?
I watch highlights of pickleball. I find it almost unwatchable in full spurts, but a highlight of a really great point you can watch. So I catch that on like Reddit. But yeah, I do watch pickleball, but I play it rather than watch it more. So I guess I should also say hi to all my friends who play pickleball. They'll like that.
You don't play. You haven't played, or you never?
I only want to.
Did you need to ask John that?
I don't. I thought he might have tried.
You don't
strike me.
My entire 401k
that he has.
That the answer to that question was no.
No.
Why?
Just the man that is John Altshuler wears shorts to the podcast and doesn't play pickleball. I mean, that's just death and taxes.
All right.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
But you've never once played. You never tried.
I don't want to.
No.
There's nothing about it strikes me as appealing.
I have played a little bit. I'm actually opting out, but my wife plays pretty regularly with a friend of mine.
Okay.
I'm opting out because after my transplant, I don't want to go back to the hospital. So obviously you were sore. I've heard about this rash of injuries because people aren't stretching. It doesn't seem like a sport. Like
I tore both ACLs.
Are you kidding?
I play with the big
at the same time.
No, not at the same time.
Wait a minute. You tore them playing pickleball?
Oh yes.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not. That's exactly my point. Yeah. So I'm glad we brought it up.
Help me understand what you look like when you're out there playing.
I look
elbow braces too.
100% an elbow brace. The 2 offensive lineman knee braces with a little hinge here. And
that is real serious.
Here. Yeah.
Well, how are you protecting your Achilles?
My Achilles seems to be indestructible.
Where do you play?
Williams Court is best game in town.
There in University Park, right there.
Yeah, right by.
That's that little court. I know where that is.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it? How many courts are there?
6.
Okay. Do you have to reserve them?
You do. It's a big controversial thing. People reserving them and not using them, and then they're too crowded, and some of the neighbors are saying it's too loud. Apparently, it being loud is a big controversy.
Why is there no bathroom over there?
There is right across the street.
Those porta potties?
I don't think it's called Gore Park anymore, but whatever Gore Park, they renamed it.
Was he trading slaves?
No, I think it's just they changed it to Centennial Park.
Okay.
I'm not vouching for the name.
Do you have like a regular group that you play with?
I play with a lot of different people, but yeah, definitely see a lot of the same
if you want to
faces.
go tonight, are you calling buddies and saying, let's all meet there?
Well, it's the modern world. We'd text, but yes.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
So you text but you've regulars that you like to play with.
That's right.
Sort of like golf, right? And it's right for you. That's
right.
A social
except
event.
You're not having to pay, which is great.
Right.
And it doesn't take 5 hours.
It takes 3, it sounds like, and your Achilles, both of them.
That's a really, really long time to play.
Okay.
But I knew I was coming here, so I was like, I'm not even sure I can go into work. And so, yeah, I played.
Okay.
Hour and a half is pretty standard.
Special shoes? Do you have court shoes now?
Yeah, they're court shoes. Just so
I know now they're more marketing.
They're like tennis shoes.
Yeah. What about same racket the whole time you've been playing? Ever switch rackets?
Oh, no. I people make fun of me. I own a lot of paddles.
So how do you choose which paddle you're bringing?
Well, I play with one paddle. I own a lot of paddles.
That's what I'm saying. But
How many paddles do you have? 15?
I've probably got 8 or 9.
Wow.
I play with one.
But do you decide like on a given day?
There's one I play with.
Only.
Yeah. I don't know why I own the other.
That's my question. You just have them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And do you bring your ball, like the balls, right?
I'm a big Facebook Marketplace guy. For the record, I didn't buy those paddles new. I bought them used, but yeah.
Okay. And so let me ask you.
Do they send them to you or do you go pick them up? Like
I only do
parking lot?
in-person Facebook Marketplace transactions.
Yeah.
Are these $30 rackets?
They can be. They can be $100. They can be. There's a range.
What's the difference between $100 and nothing?
There's a quality difference
Quality?
for sure. The materials they use, definitely quality difference.
You feel it improves your game? Is there game improvement from one paddle to the next?
Yes.
There's no chance I'm driving around town to exchange $100 for a racket or for anything.
Yeah. Again, I would have bet my 401k on that fact too. I would just know that. Have you ever done a Facebook Marketplace transaction?
No.
You didn't need to answer that. I know that.
John, which of these two things, since we're playing this game, is going to be around longer?
Bitcoin
or pickleball?
Bitcoin. Pickleball's. No.
You think Bitcoin will be around longer than pickleball?
Yeah.
What about between these three things?
I think daylight saving time is here to stay.
Okay. And do you think my heart transplant? Do you think I'm gonna be around long enough to see?
Well, I don't think I'm going to see the end of daylight saving time.
Right.
You and I are both going to be outlived by Bitcoin. Just the way it's going to be.
Okay.
I think Bitcoin's. I think it's for real.
But when we're like 90,
I still won't trust it.
When we're doing this podcast, when we're 90,
yeah,
we're not going to be talking about. We'll be like. Do you remember we did that episode about pickleball? Is that what you think it's going to be?
Oh yeah, we'll be laughing about this episode.
I feel somewhat ambushed that the topics were pickleball,
I didn't get to pick
Bitcoin, daylight savings time. Am I like the comedic relief?
What else do you want to throw in the hopper? Anything you'd like? We can talk about Jewish holidays that you'd mentioned, or
I'm very interested in Jewish holidays.
Well, okay, so we're right in between this particular episode, in between the two major high holy days, as they're referred to, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I did want to talk about this with John because I knew, and I probably have before, but it occurred to me that Rosh Hashanah is the celebration of the Jewish New Year by the biblical calendar. And Yom Kippur is our Day of Atonement. What's weird for me is, like, in a traditional calendar, you typically at the New Year, you make a resolution. But in the Jewish calendar, you have a new year, like you're making all of your, resolutions, thinking about, sweet new year. And then a week later, you're going back in to repent for all the sins that you did before.
probably more realistic when I really think about it. Like, I think most people set aside Judaism.
Right.
Just think about the traditional New Year arrangement in the United States. We make resolutions. Here's what we're going to do. And a week into it, everybody's busted.
Right. So
the Jews just figured this out sooner. It's like, hey, everyone's going to bust. Let's just go ahead and atone and start again.
Right.
Well, are you starting again from that point too? In terms of,
that's why I was going to say, I think it's real efficiency. Like that. I always tell people this is the week that like if I've done something wrong. So I think, like, if we had a disagreement or I told you, cussed you out, which I wanted to this week.
You just won't do what I say. You'll learn at some point.
I know. I agree. I'm a slow learner. There's no doubt about it. We covered that in the first 7 episodes. But it's a good week to, like, get all the things that you want to do wrong out of the way. Cause then you're done. You're clear for another year. So it's like one single day you basically rid yourself of all of the wrongdoing, repenting for one single day. It's pretty efficient. It's a whole day for all the sins.
In the 7 days that preceded, or just
no, just that day, just the holiday, just Yom Kippur. So Friday night,
atoning for which, like, my lifetime of sins, or the 7 days since the year started.
The year until the next Yom Kippur, the year between.
I actually think technically, if you skip the last one, you're in for the ones from the year before too. It's all the unatoned for.
You can get right. Yeah, because you go back.
What's unatoned mean?
Well, this is the Day of Atonement.
But what does atonement or unatonement mean?
Forgiveness, right?
Yeah, yes.
But I'm not Jewish, but I'm
right.
fairly studied. yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
forgiveness.
So it is an interesting thing, and it's always perplexed me that we do it that way. And I don't know. I've thought about it more. This isn't the first year I've thought about it, but particularly this year, I thought, well, because I was explaining to a friend who's considering, studying Judaism and asked. And so I introduced the concept of apples and honey to this friend this year, and we went and actually bought apples and honey. And anyway, it's just an interesting thing. And so that is this weekend. And by the way, to both of you, if I've hurt you, this is one of the things we say, if I've hurt you, said anything wrong, or in any way offended you, hopefully you'll know that Friday into Saturday, I'll be forgiven. So
let me ask you this. So when I think about apologies and forgiveness, I think it's possible for you to apologize to me. I can accept your apology, but do I also have to forgive you?
That's one of the central tenets of the Christian faith, at least.
I don't have to accept the behavior though.
That's right. There's a difference between forgiveness and justice. And I think people get, that now, I mean, if you put what's in that hat, what's most passionate and important to me, the number one thing would be faith, right? I also happen to be a lawyer. And I think it's really interesting to juxtapose the justice system versus grace, mercy, forgiveness. And people get really confused where they think, well, if I forgive the person, they shouldn't get the justice that they deserve from the justice system. That's not true.
I would just tell you, I've recently been telling a lot of people, this is just on my own self-work, that you can, if you forgive somebody else, you're no longer carrying that in your backpack. So I
agree.
Forgive. So that's the reason I like it, is you don't have to, we can forgive, but you don't have to accept the behavior that created that, right?
I also think it's important to really be quick to apologize or willing to apologize, because I feel like in certain parts of life, until somebody apologizes, a lot of the people involved in the mess can't move forward at all. They're just like, and I know I'm that way. Like, I just need sometimes when a mistake's pretty major, that someone acknowledges it happened, they're sorry about it, and they know what to do to correct it, and we're moving forward.
Keep short accounts, right? That's the wisdom on that.
Keep short accounts.
Yeah, we've done a lot of teaching lawyers, judges, military officials, government officials in Africa on conflict resolution, and keep short accounts. It's like,
what does that mean?
What you just said. I mean, when you need to go to someone and seek forgiveness, rush to it.
Do it fast.
And when you have conflict with someone, rush to it and work it out with them, because it festers.
It's funny how I'm very quick to rush to conflict resolution, or at least the conflict's happening, I'm going to really get into it. And I've noticed that there's some people that just need to have a little bit of time to I can deal with this, but it needs to be later. And I'm always like, let's handle it right now.
I think don't you think the key is though that you handle it?
Yeah.
But I love the deal about on the forgiveness side where you're talking about the importance of it. This is not my statement, but I read something where someone said, having someone that you're not forgiving is like drinking poison and hoping they die. I mean, when you carry that just anger and burden around with you and you don't forgive, it eats you up.
That's right.
It eats you up for sure.
I love it. It sort of falls in line with when you say walk faster. I think you can. One of the things I learned after my transplant was most immense gratitude for the relationships, but I also learned this to be a better direct communicator, about mostly in the spirit of gratitude, telling how much people they mean to me, how much but I've also had to learn the other side of that, quickly tell them, hey, no, or like when I don't like something, and that allows the relationship to move forward faster. And that kind of falls in line with what you always talk about, which is walking faster. You can go further if we actually just do that. Chad,
thanks for a great show. Thanks for being an awesome friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And Jon, obviously, thank you again for introducing me to Chad. Chad, it's such a pleasure to know you, and look forward to building a friendship with you, meeting your son, and just loved your willingness to take on these topics. And I'm on board with the daylight savings. So I'll be in the group.
It's great to know you, Scott. Thanks, guys.